Welcome back, guys. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to build this modern LED floor lamp with just some wood, concrete, and a few parts from IKEA.
All right, so let's take a look at what we're going to need for this project. And so first we have two LEDBERG light kits from IKEA, one of which you can see I have already unpacked. It's sitting up at the top. We have a NYPON flower pot from IKEA. They come in three different sizes. This is the middle size at 16 centimeters. We have some wood glue, a measuring tape, and down here we have some select pine. You can of course use any type of wood that you're comfortable working with. This is cheap and easy to find at your local Home Depot, and it's 1 by 3 inches. And not pictured here, we're also going to need some cutting tools. So in my case, I've used a miter saw, but you can also use a hand saw with a miter box to achieve your mitered cuts, and some concrete mix. And so after we have all of the items we need for this project, we can get started by making our first cut. So the first thing I did was I took my 8-foot long piece of select pine and I chopped off a 3-inch piece. So you can see here from the longest edge, it's about 3 inches. And I made 2 mitered cuts at 45 degrees. Second cut I made was just 2 square edges, and this piece is about 1.5 inches long. And then I took the remainder of the select pine, I divided it in half, and I cut it in half. And so I ended up with 2 pieces just under 46 inches long. So on both long pieces of wood, you can see one end here has a straight 90-degree cut, and on the other end, you're gonna wanna make another mitered cut of 45 degrees. Now that we have our 2 long pieces of wood cut to length, we need to cut a slot lengthwise into these pieces of wood in order to recess our LED strip and hide it away in the wood. And to do that, the first thing we have to do is measure our LED strip. And so these IKEA LED strips, widthwise, measure in at about 0.4 inches, and the thickness is a little smaller at about 0.325 inches. And so to cut our slot into our piece of wood lengthwise, if you have a wood router, that'd probably be the preferred method of cutting a nice slot centered in this piece of wood. However, if you only have access to a circular saw, you can definitely achieve the same thing. And that's what I've done here. So you can actually see that I've cut my slot already, and the LED strip of course fits inside. And so what I did to cut this slot is I marked my center down the piece of wood. I used my other piece of wood as a guide, and I used a few clamps, clamping my wood to this piece here and running my circular saw down this piece of wood lengthwise. And bit by bit, I just used the width of the blade to create a slot. I set my depth to be just a little deeper than that 0.325 inches. And I kept moving my guide side to side using the width of the blade to create this wider slot. I also just used a chisel to chisel out any remaining pieces of wood and slivers that remained in there, and I got myself a nice smooth slot where, like I said, this LED strip just fits in, drops in nicely, and is flush with the surface of the wood. One thing to note is that the slot should be on the short side of your mitered cut. Make sure you do not put it on the long side of the mitered cut, or of course this won't work and you'll have to start over. Now before we complete any more assembly, you can see that I've applied a wood stain to the inside faces of our pieces of wood. And those inside faces are the faces with the channels cut into them. Now there are a lot of great videos on YouTube covering wood staining. I'm just gonna give you a few basics here of how I did mine. I used a foam brush instead of a rag, and I followed the directions on the can. It's really not that hard. I am using pine, which is considered a soft wood, so they recommend a wood conditioner, which I like to think of as a primer for the wood, that you apply first, and it prevents the wood from getting blotchy or patchy looking when you apply the stain. So the stain soaks into the wood very evenly, and you get a nice finish without, like I said, those patchy looking areas. In this case, I ended up not using a wood conditioner, to be honest with you. I tried a small spot on my wood and I found that it looked pretty uniform, and so I went ahead and did the rest of the inside faces without a wood conditioner. Now when applying the stain, you're gonna wanna work with the grain, and the instructions on this can tell you that if you're gonna do multiple coats, then do it within a 2-hour time frame. Don't let it completely dry before moving on to the next coat. So I did 2 coats here, and I left the 2-hour recommended time in between. I've let this dry now for over 8 hours. It's dry to the touch, and we're ready to move on to the next part of the assembly. So with the inside faces now stained, we're ready to move on to mounting the LED strip inside the channel. My LED strip right now is looking a little bit frosted, and that's because prior to this step, I have also used some 220 and 400 grit sandpaper to knock down the gloss of the surface. And that's just gonna help give a softer light coming out of this thing, a more diffused light. And if you happen to be able to see inside of the floor lamp, you won't see the LED strip that well. You'll see this frosted surface, and that hides the electronics inside. So I've taken my ruler and I've measured from the edge of my mitered cut 2 inches down, marked a little mark inside the channel, and this is where I'm going to line up the end of my LED strip. So 2 inches from the end, I'm going to use my hot glue gun to just apply a nice solid bead of hot glue behind the LED strip, and that's going to secure it inside the channel. So we're going to do that on both sides. And so one final thing to note about the installation of the LEDs is that you're going to want the connector end, where you see this little white plastic connector, facing the bottom of our pieces of wood. So this is the non-mitered cut, and the open end of the LED strip is facing the mitered cut end. Next up, we're gonna have to take some measurements, make some cuts, and drill some holes. So the first thing we want to measure is the height of our pot, which turns out to be about 6 inches tall. Now, this means that we're gonna have to cut a 6 1/4 inch length piece of this PVC pipe. And this is a PVC pipe that I got from my local hardware store. It has a 1/2 inch inner diameter, a 5/8 inch outer diameter. And the inner diameter is large enough that we can pass through the electrical connectors of the LED strips. And so with those measurements, we're going to drill a hole in the bottom of our pot. And so right in the center, we're gonna drill that 5/8 inch hole. So that's gonna be large enough for us to pass through this rigid PVC pipe. And so let's go ahead and do that next. And now we have our pot with a 5/8 inch hole in the bottom. And you'll notice that our PVC tube fits through, but quite snug. And despite it being that snug, we're still gonna use a little bit of hot glue around the edges to make sure it's sealed completely shut. And we'll actually be inserting our PVC pipe through this side here. It's just gonna stick out the bottom a tiny little bit. And you'll notice on the top, if you look at it from the side, the top of the PVC pipe is gonna sit proud of the top edge of our pot. While I'm doing that, I also drilled a 5/8 inch hole into the small piece of wood that we cut out earlier. And you can see I found its center by drawing diagonal lines. Later on, in a later step, that's gonna slip over this tube, but we're not quite there yet. So let's go ahead and put our hot glue around the edge, sealing this thing up, and we'll move on to the next step in our assembly. And so now we can finish the assembly of our wood pieces. And so I've drawn in a few reference lines. The first one 6 inches away from the bottom of our pieces of wood here, and this is gonna represent the pour line for our concrete, which we're gonna do a little bit later. Second line is 4.5 inches away from the bottom, and that is going to line up with the top of this little piece of wood here. The next line is just the center line of this piece, so the thickness cut in half, and that's just used to reference where I'm drilling a pilot hole. So there's gonna be one pilot hole here, one pilot hole here. When this thing gets put on, I'm gonna put some wood glue on there, and we're gonna flip these pieces over to face one another. And we're gonna use those pilot holes with some number 8 wood screws. They're 2.5 inches long, so one's gonna go through this way, one's gonna go through that way, and that's gonna secure it with the wood glue. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what's going on at the top end of these pieces of wood. And so after putting our 2 wood screws in on either side, you can see that the small piece here is secured in place with the screws and the wood glue. Our stained faces are facing inside towards one another. And I have a number of clamps here, and we're gonna get to those in a second, holding this piece together. And in the middle, there is another clamp with a 1.5 inch wide offcut. So this offcut is just sitting there. It's not screwed in any sort of way. It's just keeping these 2 pieces of wood from bowing while they're being clamped together. So it provides some rigidity to this piece in the meantime. And at the top, we have our 45-degree cut here. So this is our little mitered piece that we have in place. And I had to sort of come up with a creative solution for holding it in place because there's no screws. There's actually just wood glue holding it. And so if we take a quick step back, We can see that I have one clamp over there holding the piece near the bottom, clamp in the middle holding this piece here with the offcut, like I said, giving it some shape. And then I have a long clamp here, a 30-inch long clamp, and it's basically applying pressure to this piece in this direction. And so between this clamp and this clamp, it's holding this 45-degree mitered cut piece in place while the wood glue dries. And the other end of this clamp is holding on to this one here, which is just again clamped to the sides of these long wood pieces. And so that's how it's gonna take shape for now. I'm gonna let this wood glue dry. In the background there, you can see the palm sander. So we're gonna get around to hitting this thing up with the palm sander and just getting rid of some of these glue lines and preparing it for the next stage of staining. With the clamps now removed, the palm sander made very quick work of this piece, cleaned it up really nice, and it's starting to take shape. The next thing that we have to do is hit the outside faces with the stain the same way that we did the inside faces. So let's go ahead and finish that part. And so now the stain has dried and it's looking very uniform across the surface. You can actually see the comparison between this stained pine and some bare pine down here. I think this looks great, and we're ready to move on to taking some final measurements so we can secure this thing to that gray pot that we had prepared earlier. And now across the bottom of our wood piece here, we're gonna take some simple measurements from the center here to the center here, which is about 2.5 inches. Of course, you can just use your ruler or measuring tape to measure this. And then looking here with our channel in the center of one of these pieces of wood, these 1x3 pieces of wood, I'm looking at measuring roughly from the center sort of this rectangle to the center of this rectangle, and we have about 1 5/8 of an inch across here. And we're gonna need those measurements because we're gonna transfer them to the bottom of that gray pot. We're gonna be using 4 wood screws, one here, 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 and here, to secure this to the bottom of the pot and hold it straight up and down with respect to that pot. So we're gonna be drilling 4 clearance holes in the bottom of the pot, and then 4 wood screws will go into the bottom of this piece, holding it in place with our PVC tube passing through this clearance hole that we put in the center of this piece of wood. So now with the 4 holes drilled in the bottom of our pot, we can turn our piece of wood upside down, as well as our pot. We're gonna be aligning our PVC tube with the hole in the bottom of this centerpiece, and basically just inserting it on top and through that hole. And so it should slide through quite nice, just like that. And then looking on top through these holes, we're gonna align our pieces of wood with these 4 holes so that we can put our 2.5 inch long wood screws through, and we'll drill those and fasten them into the wood. The 4 screws are in place in the bottom, and now we can turn our piece right side up, and you're gonna wanna look straight down into your pot and make sure everything is looking good in center before we move on to filling this thing with concrete. So get out your bag of concrete because we're gonna be mixing some concrete up next and pouring it inside the pot. Okay, so we're ready to pour our concrete, but there's just a few quick things that I wanna go over. First thing is that we wanna plug the top of our PVC tube. I have some packing tape here, and it's gonna prevent concrete from getting in and then us having a hard time later on fishing wires through. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the surface that we're working on. If you're doing this inside your house, I'm using a storage container lid to contain any sort of a mess. If anything leaks through any of those holes in the bottom, it should be contained by this lid. Third thing, the surface that we're working on should be level. The concrete's gonna get poured in, and we want it to sit nice and even around the surface of this pot. So you're gonna need a level working space. And the final thing is your concrete mix. I would suggest following the instructions on the bag to get the right ratio of concrete to water. And there are a lot of great videos out there on YouTube to help you with this. I'm not gonna go over all those details. So I got my concrete mixed and we're ready to pour it inside the pot. So I just finished mixing my concrete and pouring it into the pot. I used a dollar store measuring cup and a paint stir stick to measure it in the cup and pour it into the pot nice and clean, avoiding getting concrete all over the side of our nice finished wood. To agitate the concrete and to bring out any sort of air and bubbles, you can just pick the thing up and drop it repeatedly a few times, and you'll actually see the bubbles of air remove themselves from the mix, and it will level out the surface. And so right now I'm happy with the way everything is sitting. So I'm gonna leave this to cure for about 2 days. I'm gonna make sure it's nice and solid before I start to move this thing around, and we'll come back and finish up the wiring. So 2 days later we're back and the concrete has cured. We're ready to trim down the final little piece of PVC pipe that's sticking up here. And to do that we have a loose hacksaw blade, and it should be able to fit right between the wood and the PVC pipe. And we can start sawing away at it and cut it as flush as possible with the concrete. And now that the PVC pipe has been trimmed down so it's nice and flush with the concrete, we're ready to add some felt feet to the bottom of the pot. And this is going to help us for when we move on to the next stage of routing the wires through. We want the pot elevated off the ground just a little bit. The thickness of these felt feet will do. And that'll help with the wires because the wires are going to come out the bottom, and it's going to keep the pot from pinching those wires against the ground and making the pot tilt all over the place. So let's get these feet on and move on to the wiring. And so as I just described, I've added some hot glue to the top of the tube, and I've done the same to the bottom of the tube. And now if you were to pull on these wires, you should not be able to pull them out of the connectors, and they should not pull through the tube. And if you look inside of the channel, as an added measure of security, I removed the plug and I added a little bit of hot glue on the underside of the plug and then forced it back into place inside the channel. So now these things should be nice and secure, and the wires themselves remain hidden inside of the channel all the way down to the bottom of the tube. And so now we're left with the remainder of the wiring, which consists of 2 switches and 2 plugs. And this is of course because we used 2 LED kits for this project. Now if you are not into soldering or you're not confident enough to do that, you're pretty much done here, and you can clean up the wiring by bundling it together, as well as double side taping the switches together on the back. So everything looks nice and neat. Plug them in, test them out, and everything should work. But if you want to take this project a step further and you want to get only 1 wall plug, then we're going to need to look at the back of the plugs and find a little more information out about what they do. And so these things are rated at 24 volts and 130 milliamps. And so if we want to eliminate 2 plugs and just use 1, we're going to need to find another 24 volt wall plug that's rated at least 0.26 amps, which is 260 milliamps. So more commonly, you'll probably find one that is 300 milliamps or greater, which is fine. And so all you would have to do is just cut the wires going to these 2 plugs, find your positive and negative, and then of course wire them in parallel to your new plug. And then of course you'd have 1 wall plug, which would clean things up quite well, bundle your wires together. And for your switches, you have 2 options as well. Now of course you can basically just cut the wires going into the switches and just basically use 1 switch. Again, wire both lights in parallel to 1 switch if you just wanted 1. Or like I was saying, you could actually cut on this side, wire to your new plug in parallel, and then you'd retain your 2 switches, and you'd have almost like a high and low feature of your light, so that you'd only turn on 1 side of the light at a time. So those are your 2 options for the wiring. Me, myself, I'm gonna take the easy route here, and I'm just gonna keep the 2 plugs and bundle everything together nice and neat.
And that concludes the build for this modern IKEA LED floor lamp. I hope you guys get inspired to build your own. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. I try and read all of the comments, and I will try and get back to every single one of you. See you guys in the next video.